Welcome to this training course on administering screening tests, a practical introduction. I'm Hannah Maloney, a qualified SENCO and specialist assessor, and your course host today. I've worked in SEN for more than 15 years, covering EYFS to post-16, and with my team we have carried out several thousand screening assessments and seen a profound impact in both well-being and outcomes. And this is what led me to write the book, No Child is Missed, No Child Misses Out. Currently, we have a huge gap in access to specialist assessment, and I believe we can help close it by maximising the amazing staff we already have in our schools. We know that education is in dire straits, with 20,000 children awaiting an education health and care plan assessment, a critical shortage of educational psychologists, and the wait time for an NHS neurodevelopmental assessment for children can range from 300 days to 4 years or more. And 25% of SENCOs have no access to specialist assessment. We know that we are very much in the middle of a crisis, but I genuinely believe that screening pupils and better understanding their strengths and needs is our way out of this crisis. So, welcome to this course and to screening. You're taking a powerful first step forward. Screening is not covered in the NA SENCO or MPQ SENCO, so undertaking this course will help you and your school to bridge this gap, and I hope it gives you the confidence to try screening out in your school. I promise you, you will not regret it. This training is on practically administering screening tests. We will not directly cover different types of needs and what you should assess for, as this is covered in my book and the website nochildismissed.org. It's important to remember that screening is not diagnostic. We will not be giving labels. And in fact, the No Child is Missed, No Child Misses Out model takes a needs not labels approach. Screening is about identifying potential areas of strength and difficulty through a dimensional model. In particular, looking at a child or young person's biological, psychological and social needs as part of the evaluation process, taking a more holistic look. These areas of strength and difficulty can then be used to identify emerging needs early on, or in later primary and secondary to identify appropriate supports and interventions to remediate or mitigate. Another important factor in screening is that it enables fair access to needs identification. Currently, more boys undergo assessment and receive support than girls, and children from lower socioeconomic status are more likely to get certain diagnostic outcomes than those from wealthier backgrounds. Ethnicity can also influence access to assessment too. So, screening using a No Child is Missed, No Child Misses Out model advocates for all children being screened to improve fair access to support. Screening is essentially carrying out one-to-one tests with a child or young person. And there are some important factors in your role when carrying out that screening. Number one, you need to follow the test scripts exactly. This ensures consistency. Number two, you need to provide a calm and consistent environment, and this helps the child or young person to perform in a normal way. Number three, you need to record the information that you see and hear, but don't take time to interpret it in that moment. You're simply writing down information as you go. And finally, you need to respect the confidentiality of the data that you're receiving and of that moment in time for that child or young person. There are two important factors that you need to consider before going ahead and carrying out a screening. The first is parental consent, and it's something that each school will need to consider their approach to. If you're the SENCO, this is something that you should discuss with your line manager, and if you're the head teacher, consider your policies and any professional body advice around in-school screening and the need for parental consent. There is further practical information and guidance in Chapter 3 of the book. If you're an educational professional, such as a SEND specialist teacher or a teaching assistant, it is important to check with your SENCO about the school's approach to parental consent for screening before going ahead. The second thing I would commend you to think about is your own personal values. What's important to you in carrying out this screening and how you want children to experience it. For me, my personal values are around trust and growth, and therefore it's important that the child experiences and feels safety in that moment of being tested, and that my approach helps them to understand that this is part of a growth process, that they will learn something from it and they will be better because of it. So let's now think about the preparation that you'll need to consider before collecting a pupil to be screened. You need to find a safe and calm space, and this can sometimes be tricky given how busy schools can be. But you need to ensure that the test environment is calm throughout. Avoid a corridor, even a quiet one, because this can make a child feel on edge that someone might walk past, and this will affect the test results. Turn any desk telephones off, switch mobile phones to flight mode, and stick a Do Not Disturb sign on the door. There are almost always at least 4 types of materials that you will need for a screening, and it's really important to get them ready before the pupil comes. The first is the blank test papers for recording pupil scores and any observations. And make sure too that you've understood what you need to do for each test and ask someone if you're not sure. 2. The support documents, such as text for a reading test or the symbols for the visual processing speed tests. 3. A timer to accurately record how long a task takes. And for some this will be counting up, for some this might be counting down. 4. A pen or pencil to record your scores. And finally 5, I also like to have a clipboard so I can keep eye contact during my conversations with each pupil, but also keep questions and my notes at an angle so they can't easily see them. One of the most important aspects of screening alongside carrying out those tests accurately is building the relationship with the child or young person very quickly, from before even that they enter the classroom or the office that you're doing the test. And that is known as unconditional positive regard, which you've probably heard in other training environments. And the importance of this can't be underestimated. It doesn't have to be fancy. Simply giving an explanation, including how long it's going to be. Smile, calm, be reassuring throughout with verbal and non-verbal cues. They're also really important. The environment that you're trying to create is probably not dissimilar to that of a GP or an optician appointment. And this is an important part of the consent process. Whilst only those over the age of 13 can legally give consent, all children should be treated respectfully, and this means creating a safe environment where they're relaxed enough to participate. And this respects their assent, their ability to agree and participate willingly in the process. And that's the child's emotional acceptance and agreement to participate. During the test, follow the script exactly. Don't go off-piste and add in additional explainers, as this can affect the test outcomes. For example, if a child does not know the answer to a question in the reading comprehension or stumbles on a word, follow the test instructions. Do not give them a helpful nudge as you might in a classroom environment, as this is likely to affect the result and invalidate the score. If any visual or auditory distractions occur during the screening, such as an emergency vehicle going past the window with its siren on, simply pause the test momentarily until it returns to calm again and pick up from where you left off. When a pupil is undertaking a test with you, your job is to simply record the observations and the outcome. Don't interpret as you go. In the screening test itself, the most important job is simply to observe, measure and record carefully. And if the test asks for a whole number or the time in minutes, not just seconds, but you've got time in seconds and milliseconds on your timer, just write down exactly what's on your timer in your notes and go back at a less pressurised time to round up or to convert. This means that you're much less likely to make mistakes. When you're taught to carry out assessments diagnostically, you're taught that the qualitative information is just as important as the quantitative information. That's to say, what you observe and understand about that child or young person from your interactions with them can be just as powerful as the numbers in the test's results. And so I would urge you when you're carrying out these screening tests to also make a note of what you see, the observations. And sometimes you won't necessarily know or understand what those mean within the initial context, but they can be really helpful when you start to bring together and draw all of that other information to try and understand what might be going on. So for example, if the pupil regularly touches their hair during the screening assessment, write it down. If they struggle to find words sometimes, write it down. If they're lovely and smiley and happy-go-lucky and you notice that, write it down. Whatever you notice, write it down. Whatever you decide to screen for in your school protocol, you will have a process that you need to follow. Now, initially, as you get going, you may find that you've got different pieces of paper, but this is an example of something I've created as a flow to help me go through an assessment. So you'll see here that I've got the student name, the date of birth, the date of the testing, and the name of the assessor. Those are all really important pieces of information to note down. And then you'll see, as part of my commitment to safeguarding and the well-being of the child or young person, I've got a well-being check at the beginning of the assessment. I also use a screening process to allow me to understand either some specific targeted questions about that child or young person that I want to think about, particularly in relation to the school or within the context. I might also choose to ask a question from a school perspective to understand the impact of transition, for example, or whether there are enough safe spaces around the school. So you think about your school improvement plan and what you might want to learn and hear from the pupils. So there's many different questions that you might choose to ask. Obviously, you'll do that in discussion with the SENCO, with the senior leadership team, and those will be for you to decide. And you'll see as we go through these questions, I've been interested to know whether they're wearing glasses. It's actually quite useful to know that in future conversations. Were they wearing their glasses or not? That's helpful. You'll see that I'm interested in their handedness, whether they're left or right-handed, about sleep and ease of sleep. I'm also interested in technology, so this is a question I've chosen to ask. And one of my favourite but also really insightful questions is, if you could be any animal, what would you be and why? I think the best answer I've had to this is I'd be a seagull so I could swoop down and steal people's chips. But I would suggest that this is a really important question because sometimes you get some really insightful and powerful understandings about that child from their comment. And then as you go through, you will choose other screening tests to focus on. And you'll see at the end of this sheet, I revisit the wellbeing questionnaire, the wellbeing question, to see how that assessment process has affected that child or young person. And then I can make sure that I'm signposting them on or providing appropriate support. Having a protocol, having a form that you follow and you consistently fill in is a really helpful way of practically administering a consistent screening process. Most of the time, the vast majority of pupils really enjoy the screening process, and once they get to the end of it and they leave, they probably don't give it a second thought. However, it is really important to continue that unconditional positive regard and reassure them about the post-test experience. So let the pupil know that the results won't come back for quite a while. It does take time to process that data and turn it into a report or a conclusion that you're happy to share. Also reassure them that their results are private and they will not be shared with others, or certainly other pupils. Those results, of course, will be shared with their teachers and with parents and relevant professionals externally, if appropriate. Make sure practically that before you finish that you've covered everything that you needed to cover, that you haven't got any gaps on the form. And also make sure that you hand those papers over with confidence and care to the relevant person, because they can sometimes get lost, and obviously this is really important data, so take care over that piece of paper. The other thing I would say is it's quite tempting to give hints and tips or sort of interpret and share the results with parents or young people. Once you might have a gut reaction or a gut feel, but I would encourage you not to do that until you're ready to discuss them properly. Converting scores and processing them into any report or feedback can take some time, especially if you're doing this at scale and you've seen lots of children and young people. So my advice is don't overpromise and underdeliver. Give parents and carers and pupils clear information about timeframes. I often say it can even take up to 6 weeks. But that just gives me the space and time to do the best job that I can and not rush it. If screening at scale, I also time reports to go out just before a parents' evening so that I can meet with parents who want to see me for a short appointment rather than an hour-long meeting. This allows me to prioritise my time for more complex cases where I do need to meet with the parents and have more time than a brief parents' evening professional discussion. Let's now just recap some of those key points. So, first of all, when we're screening, we're not looking to diagnose. And in the No Child is Missed, No Child Misses Out model, we're actually not looking to even signpost to a particular diagnostic label. We are looking at needs rather than labels. We are looking to understand a profile. Second of all, your role in the screening process is to administer the tests, to make observations and to record data accurately. That's the number one point of screening. Thirdly, it's important that you do things consistently, consistent with the test description and script and the way of running the test, and consistent with your pupils across the school. That way you'll get data that is meaningful and also data that is comparable, so that you can use that much more helpfully in any thinking about the individual or the school systems and processes. And finally, ask if you're unsure. Screening isn't difficult, particularly if, as you get more confident with the test, that none of them are complicated. But a colleague recently described screening to me as a bit of a choreographed movement. You need to know what to say and when, you need to have the right thing to hand at the right time, and you've got a bit of a pace to keep going to get yourself through without sort of dragging or delaying. So do ask if you're unsure. Also know that it does take time to practice as well. Now, as I said at the beginning, this presentation has not been about teaching you what to assess for, but simply how to administer screening tests practically. If you'd like to know what to test for and at different ages and stages, then that is what my book and the website will cover. And you can see that within the book we focus on speech and language development, spelling, reading efficiency and comprehension, visual processing, sensory processing, executive function, social, emotional and mental health, and physical health. We also look at handwriting as well, actually, within the sensory processing chapter. So what the book teaches you, it teaches you how to screen, it teaches you what to screen for between the ages of 3 and 18, and to do that for free. It helps you to identify what's most likely going on for a child or young person and to build personalised plans with evidence-based strategies. It helps you to report quickly, easily and professionally to parents, carers and staff. And most importantly for me, certainly within this environment at the moment, I think it's critical that we improve equity so that no child is overlooked. Equally, the book will help you to build strategies for interventions, training and financial planning so that no child misses out. If you'd like to buy a copy and you haven't already got one, then you can access a link on the website and on the next slide. So, thank you so much for watching this brief training on administering screening tests, a practical introduction. If you'd like a certificate for your records to show your course completion, please complete the test in the Get Started files. Do continue to have a look around the website. There's plenty of resources available to you, and there will be more added over time. Good luck. You really won't regret implementing screening in your school. I'm all for you. I'm here if I can help. It's really important that you do it well, do it right, but you've got this.